to a special edition of Twins Live batting practice from Target Field. The Twins and the Yankees will battle in the second game of a three-game series tonight. But first, we bring you behind the scenes to what goes on as the team gets ready for action tonight. Players getting ready to take their swings, infielders shagging and fielding ground balls. Everything that goes into the preparation for game time tonight, you'll get a first-hand look at it here live on Fox Sports North. I'm Anthony LaPanta at Target Field. We'd like to hear from you throughout the day today, and you can join the conversation via Twitter. Use the hashtag TwinsBP. Send us your questions. Roy Smalley will be with us a bit later, as will Justin Morneau. As we get set for the first group jumping in the cage, we welcome Justin Morneau to our batting practice edition of Twins Live. And Justin, you've seen a few of these over the years as everybody starts getting ready for game time here tonight.
Yeah, this makes me wish I was out there. It's one of those. That was my favorite time of the day. You know, you can go out there and just get in the cage, you settle in, you start focusing on the game, and if you want to work on something, you can work on something. If not, you go up there and you're just free to swing and have fun.
Group 1 is brought to you by Mall of America. The Twins will hit in 3 groups today. The first group, Max Kepler, Jorge Polanco, Ari Adrianza, and Eddie Rosario. And as this first group hits, we'll keep an eye on them and give you an idea of what some of the things are that each hitter might be working on as they go through their rounds of batting practice here today.
Yeah, and the first round's always, you're going to go up there and bunt, and you're going to. This was Tom Kelly. The first time I saw how important this was when Tom Kelly yelled at me and told me to get out of the cage for not getting the bunts down. He said, I don't care if you're a power hitter, if we're in Game 7 of the World Series, if you can't bunt right now in batting practice, how can I count on you when the big moments come up? And you go up there and you get those bunts down, you get them fair, and at a time you never know when you're going to need to do it, but you have to work on it, and you do that, and you get the bunts out of the way, and then you get to swing and you get to have fun.
Things are always different. Every team's a little different. Everything from how they construct their groups to how they assign the different responsibilities within the group, how many swings they might take, how many rounds they might have. For the Twins today, it's a little bit of a different situation than what we saw earlier in the year, because in September, James Rowson says he allows the guys to decide if they want to hit. They've had so many swings over the course of the season that some guys want to just pull it back a little bit at this point.
Yeah, and there was times where I always like to take some batting practice off. You get off your feet a little bit, and sometimes the answer isn't swinging more, sometimes it's swinging less. And you get out there, and sometimes you can just drive yourself crazy by taking too many swings. So later in my career, I learned to back off, in Colorado, I go up and they had a room. I go up there and take a nap during batting practice when everybody was outside. But I always felt a little more refreshed, a little better. And sometimes you can let batting practice affect your game. And you got to remember it's just practice and it's just for fun, and try not to let it carry over. And on the flip side of that, when it does go well, you go, okay, today's going to be a good day. My swing felt great in BP. And then you never really know how it's going to be, but you try and take some positive out of everything you do. And the BP rounds for me, I always love to get the feel, try and stay inside the ball. First round, we're going the other way. We're trying to use the opposite field. And Kadire always said if he was hitting to the opposite field, he was trying to hit it off the right center field wall. And each guy's a little bit different. But talking to James Rowson about, you know, what do you want the guys to do? He said, well, hitting in the game is important with a plan. So I want these guys to know who's pitching that night and how they're going to approach that pitcher, and then how are they going to do that in batting practice, and how are they going to formulate a plan. And you know, the first couple rounds you get loose, but then you go out there and you can maybe picture that guy on the mound. If he's a right-handed pitcher, you're facing a right-handed batting practice thrower, and you go, okay, this guy's got a good fastball and he likes to work away. I'm gonna ask that batting practice pitcher to throw the ball away, and I'm gonna try and work on hitting the ball to the other gap. And you can kind of have a plan, and it helps you get some purpose out of batting practice instead of just trying to pull home runs.
Almost everybody uses a first-round approach of letting the ball travel a bit, see it, and take it either back through the middle or to the opposite field, though, don't they?
Most guys, and there's some guys that are obviously an exception to that. I love watching Matt Stairs take batting practice, because it seemed like from the first swing to the last swing, he was trying to hit the ball as far as he could, and very few guys can get away with that. But you know, as a younger player, I tried to hit a lot of home runs in batting practice. As I got older, I realized that I get more out of it, of trying to recognize where the pitch was in the zone and try and hit the ball where it's pitched, and try and get something out of it, because it can wear on you if every single swing you ever take is trying to hit a home run instead of trying to use your hands, trying to trust your hands, learn what pitches you can handle within the strike zone, learn what pitches you hit well. But if all you're ever doing is trying to come out of your shoes and hit the ball as far as you can, you don't really learn or gain much from that. So every once in a while there's those rounds, and then towards the end you'll start trying to hit home runs and pull home runs or whatever you're doing. So you can get a lot out of batting practice, and you can learn a lot, and you can get a lot of feel for the rest of the day.
As this group goes through their swings, the first round, 6 or 7 swings, guy approaching it however he may. Now as they get deeper into it, what do they start to adjust as they get to their second and third time in the cage?
Well, they'll change their sights. The first round you're thinking opposite field, and for some guys opposite field was the middle. Some guys it's from the second base, for me, second base to the third base bag. Any part of that field was opposite field. So that doesn't mean hitting the ball down the left field line for me. It means, left side of second base. And then you start to move the field as the batting practice goes along. You go gap to gap. So you're, from the 377 in left field to the scoreboard and right, and you're doing that. And then as it goes along, you keep doing that. And then you start looking for pitches, and as opposed to where you're going to hit the ball, you start trying to recognize which part of the plate that pitcher's throwing the ball on. And for me, I had the same routine every day just because I wanted to be prepared in a certain way. First round, it was 2 bunts, and then we'd have our oppo, and then the next round we'd go through the, hit and run, get him over. So I'd try and pull the ball to the right side. As we see Rosario's doing exactly what I just said. You see that swing, he's pulling the ball on the ground to the right side, making sure he moves that runner from second to third. So you have this mental preparation that you go through as you're hitting, and then the next one would be, get him in from third. So you imagine the infield's back, so you try and hit a ball on the ground so you can score that guy from third. And then you imagine the infield's in, you have to get a ball elevated, something to hit in the air to the outfield so you can score that guy on a sac fly. And then I'd always do a bases loaded, and then I'd do a 2-out runner in scoring position, and try and put yourself in those higher pressure situations. So when you get in the game, it's not the first time you've practiced that. You've done it every day in batting practice. So you're imagining, okay, game's on the line. What am I going to do right here? And you kind of put yourself into a little more higher intensity mindset as you're taking BP. And some guys are the exact opposite. Some guys just want to feel loose and feel their body, and feel the barrel get to the ball and not put that much into it. And everybody's different, I think, which is the biggest thing that everyone can take out of this.
A lot of times you would hear the hitting coach from behind the cage with it. Okay, get on. Okay, get him over. Okay, get him in. With James Rowson, he seems to approach it where sometimes he might mix it up a little bit throughout that round. Hey, now it's 3-1. Now you're 3-0. Now you're hit and run. Now you're get him over. And do you like it where it was a little more variance to it as opposed to being the same structured system every single day?
I think that depends on the guy. And I think what that does for you, it forces you to have an approach and to think about what he's telling you. Okay, if I get in this situation, what am I supposed to be doing right here? And sometimes, by changing those things up, you're testing the guy's knowledge. What is this guy supposed to do with a runner on third and less than 2 outs in the infield in? What pitch is he looking for? Okay, so for me, it was I'd look for something up in the zone that I can hit to the outfield in the air. So if I did that, and then all of a sudden I swing at a ball that's on my shoe tops and hit a ground ball back to the pitcher, that tells me that I don't have a plan or I'm not following my plan. And the hitting coach can get some feedback on that without actually having a conversation. And then the hitter actually has to think about, okay, runner on second, tie ball game, how am I going to get this guy over? And some guys in batting practice, they'll get in that situation. If they know they're a bunter, they'll lay down a bunt in that get him over situation, and they'll turn it into, all right, what would I do in the game? And you see the guys mentally prepare themselves for all these situations because, there's not practice time in baseball. This is practice time. This is the time to work on stuff. There is no, game on Sunday and we're going to run through everything, Monday to Saturday and be able to work on those things. So you have to incorporate it into your game preparation is also a time to actually work on different skills and stuff you want to get better at.
Anything to the players trying to figure out how the ball might be flying on a given day? I just watched Max Kepler hit a couple fly balls in that last session and then stand and watch them to see where they landed. Are you ever looking at it saying, boy, the ball's not carrying much to right field today, or is it too early in the day to make any kind of an adjustment that way?
Well, I think this ballpark can get you sometimes because it seems like the ball carries a lot better when it's warm, when the sun's out, and all of a sudden you get in the game and it can play completely different. I think one of the things they'll know is you check which directions the flag's blow, and then you see it, and the ball usually carries in the opposite direction in this ballpark. It seems to swirl, and it tells you if the wind's blowing in from right, it's probably going to carry to left, and you go, okay, is this a pitcher that's going to play into that game plan? If I tell my batting practice pitcher, hey, work me away, the ball seems to be flying the other way, I mean, you have to take advantage of the elements sometimes and have an approach that makes sense. I mean, if you're in Fenway Park, and it's 300 feet down the left field line, take advantage of that. If there's a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher on the mound for me, I'd say, okay, I'm just going to let the ball get deep, and if I can flick it off that wall over there, it's going to be a hit. So you do have to pay attention to that stuff, and then it helps you as an outfielder how the ball travels. When you get out there in the outfield and you go, okay, when I hit this ball during batting practice and it looked like it was going to be off the wall and it was 20 feet from the wall because the wind pushed it back towards the field, I'm going to gain information any way I can, and it'll make me a better outfielder also if I'm watching. I know what it does if I hit that ball in the game or if I'm running the bases. Hit a deep fly ball and look up and you go, okay, I hit that ball 3 times in BP. Not one of them went even off the wall. I'm going to have to tag up from second on this play or whatever it is. So the whole time you're going through batting practice, it's not just out there swinging. You're taking ground balls. You're working on throwing the bases. You're doing all these little things to mentally prepare yourself for what it's going to take to win that ball game that night.
Now, as these hitters jump in get deeper into the rounds, how are they determining how many swings each round is? Is it predetermined? Is it something where the group leader says, hey, this round we're going 6?
Yeah, it'll be the leader. The leader will call it out, or the hitting coach will call it out, and they'll go, okay, first round of 6. All right, and they'll come out in 6, and then the other guys pay attention because you're watching each other, and this is, where you have fun. Guys are kind of talking trash to each other, and they're sitting there, and you see a guy, take 6, you're around to 6, and a guy takes 7 or 8, and the other guys will be going, if I did it, it was always, is that the Canadian conversion? Is 8 in Canada, 6 here? And, guys kind of get on each other, but that's the way of letting you know, hey, we're paying attention. We're all on the same team. We should all get the same amount of swings. Just because you are who you are doesn't mean you get to take 12, so I only get 4. It's a group thing, and guys kind of police it themselves, and that's how that works out.
I remember some of your group would always have something fun going on at the end, whether it be a base hit round where you stay in as long as you get a base hit, or a home run derby sometimes. How much of that still goes on today?
Oh, I'm sure it's still going. That's the best part of BP. Our last round was always 2 and a homer. So it was 2 swings, hit them wherever you want, and then the last one you try and hit a homer. And we'd have a little friendly wager going sometimes. And, loser has to get the other guy's Gatorade or, whatever it was. It wasn't always money, but, you got to clean my shoes in the minor leagues or whatever it was. So you can kind of have fun with it. And then you put yourself in it. It helps you lock in that last round of, okay, if I get in a situation where we're going to need a homer here, I want to hit my pitch. So it helps you just narrow that strike zone down, because in BP, really a lot of times you're covering the whole plate because that guy's out there working hard. He's trying to throw you strikes, and you try and help him out a little bit. If he's an inch off the plate, you're probably still going to swing at it. And you just try and keep things moving. You want to get your swings in. You don't want to be up there, as they call it, keyholing, basically looking at a strike zone the size of where you put your key in the lock. So you kind of get accused of doing that sometimes. So you want to be disciplined, but at the same time, you kind of are up there trying to lock in on certain things. And that last round of BP is always fun, and usually that's the leader of the group will call that out too. He'll go, okay, we're doing 2 and a homer, or we're doing base hit round, and then you'll hit 9 balls in a row, and you'll stay in there to take 9 swings if you get 9 hits, and there'll be controversy on that too. So it's somebody will say, oh, that was a hit, and they'll say, not if I'm playing that position, I would have caught that ball. And there's a lot of trash talking going on around the cage. It's fun.
We're in the midst of watching Group 1 that's brought to you by Mall of America. Would the group leader change by the day, or was the same guy always the leader of each group?
No, we basically, because I was somewhat superstitious, if we won, that group would never change. And if we lost, we'd change it a lot of times. And so we kind of rotate through, and some guys would be first, and the next day you'd hit 4th or 2nd, and you kind of go back and forth on it. And it was fun for us. And the day off, we go, okay, the day game where you don't take BP and you win, really test the memory, because then you're going back to the day before. Did we win the day before? And this is the problem with being superstitious.
Right.
So, and then sometimes you would just go out there and you would just, whoever got in the cage first. Sometimes guys are hitting underneath in the tunnel and they're not ready to come out for the start of BP. So somebody new leads it off. But for the most part, it was you'd hit off the same batting practice pitcher. At least when I was here. When I went other places, I'd like to hit off a lefty before the game. We didn't always have someone left-handed, or we'd only have somebody left-handed at home. And okay, you're going to prepare one way for home games, and you're going to prepare one way for road games. So that's kind of where it was at. So it changed every day, and you kind of adjusted as it went along.
Time to pick them up. Group 1 is done, so Group 2 is getting set to dig in. Group 1 here was brought to you by Mall of America.
How was that?
Get back to school styles that rule at Mall of America. With so many stores, it's the perfect place to find your school style.
Twins continue with batting practice at Target Field as they get set to battle the Yankees here tonight. We welcome you back to this special edition of Twins Live batting practice, and right now we welcome Roy Smalley, who has a special guest.
Guys, I'm here with Twins hitting coach James Rowson, his usual post here right behind the batting cage, watching his charges as they go through their swing routine. They're going to start this group, 3 guys, Logan Forsythe and Joe Mauer and Robbie Grossman. They're going to start with James, a couple of bunts. Justin Morneau's already talked about the importance of making sure you can bunt the ball in batting practice before you start your swings.
Absolutely. We start every day with 2 bunts, trying to get good placement, take pride in them, make sure you try to get them down the right way, but you're trying to get placement. Joe does a really nice job, obviously. You're staying between the line and the edge of the grass, making a tough play right there. He killed that ball nicely, but every day that's the plan, 2 quality bunts before you start the routine.
So then I noticed you were talking with Eddie Rosario about hitting the ball different places. These guys, not so much. You're not going to be calling out what they need to do. They're veteran guys, aren't they?
Absolutely. These guys do it a little bit differently. They kind of have a purpose for each round, depending on what they want to do that day. Sometimes depending on who they're facing that day, what they want to do going with each round. So, like right here, Robbie does a nice job of using his hands early, just getting a feel for getting his hands going, staying inside the baseball, working from there with his first round for the most part.
When you have veteran guys in one group like this, how much instruction happens from behind the cage here? Are you just watching? Are there things that you say to them mid-round?
Yeah, what happens a lot of times out here is the closer you get to the game, the more you want to move away from, necessarily mechanics, and you want to start talking about game plan and approach the closer you get to the game. So, what we did earlier in the cage, now you come out here and see if guys are able to execute that with a moving baseball. And obviously, every once in a while you see something that might be a little bit different. You talk to a guy about it quickly, but you want him to focus more on game plan and approach the closer he gets to the game and less about, just specific mechanics of the swing.
Sure. And now we got Joe Mauer, and I imagine there's some conversation that goes on, but Joe's been doing this a long time, and he pretty much knows what he's doing out there.
You can kind of close your eyes and watch Joe Mauer take BP. You know what you're going to get. He's professional. He has an idea of what he wants to do on every swing. So he's been doing this a long time, and with him, you just kind of look at the little keys and really communicate with him and ask him how he's feeling on the daily basis, and if there's something that in particular that he'd want you to look out for or watch if he's not feeling good. But when he's feeling pretty good, it's like clockwork for him.
Okay, so they've been through their first round. Robbie Grossman is the leader today, calling out what they're doing. Robbie, switch hitter. Now he's swung around hitting right-handed. I can tell you from personal experience, you're 2 different hitters. You got to get the more work in because you're 2 different hitters.
Absolutely, and that's part of the deal. Like that, any particular day, depending if we're facing righty or lefty, he'll decide, which side of the plate he's going to get the majority of his work in. But it's important for him to work both sides of the plate every day. So regardless of who's pitching on the mound, he needs to work both sides of the plate. And he does a good job of doing that every day. And it's 2 different swings, like you said. It's really 2 different hitters that you're working at. So some days the right side feels good, some days the left side feels good. So it's a matter of kind of separating those 2 things and talking to him to find out which side felt best and what he wants to work on from either side of the plate.
And Logan Forsythe in the cage right now, and another veteran player that knows what he's doing. One of the things that I've noticed about him, he lets the ball in a game, he lets the ball travel on him about as well as anybody else. It looks like he very rarely gets fooled. He doesn't swing at bad balls, and he's watching the ball a long time.
Yeah, he's got a great approach at the game. He can take anybody middle the other way at will. So when he's working, he can let the ball get deep and really drive the baseball to right field, right center field. But the thing about Logan is one of the things he works on is he can get his contact points out in front a little bit too and spin some baseballs and get them to go to the pull side with some juice. So I know sometimes it kind of, it looks like he works that way, but he can do that with 2 strikes. But early in the count, a lot of times he's now trying to work on getting out there a little bit and letting the ball fly a little bit early in the count, taking some more aggressive type swings. And, lately he has hit some balls and driven them in, to center field and into left center field toward our bullpen there with authority.
So Sonny Gray pitching a night right-hander, and it looks like Robbie Grossman still feels like he needs some right-handed swings, even though he's going to be in there left-handed.
Absolutely, and that comes back to that feel part of the day. And Robbie's been around, you know, he's a student of the game. He knows how his body feels. So sometimes he'll get in there, and if his left-handed swing feels good, it's a matter of getting the right feel in batting practice. And batting practice is all about feel. So sometimes when something feels good, you're good with it, and you can kind of move on to the next thing. There's no point of swinging until, I always say you can swing yourself out of a good swing in batting practice as well. You can have a good swing and all of a sudden just continue to take swings and swings and swings, and then it doesn't feel as good. So it's important to know when something feels good, what you're trying to work on, and once you're done with that, get out of there.
Sounds like my golf practice. I could swing myself right into another bad swing thought. So one of the things that, what are some of the keys for some of these hitters? If you were looking at Logan Forsythe, what would you, what are you watching him for? Where there might be one thing where you might make a suggestion after the round or in between and say, I know you're trying to do this. Here's what I noticed.
Yeah, I try to keep it simple. More or less with Logan, a lot of times it's timing and direction. Just kind of try to get that timing and feel good about the way your swing is going. And just you really use your direction to try to keep your body and everything going through the middle of the field. Try not to get too directed toward the corners, because then you're going to make it a little bit tougher for you. And you're going to take your swing out of whack. So as long as his timing looks good and his direction's good and just keeping his body nice and loose and feeling free with the swing, he usually puts together pretty good batting practice and pretty good games.
So we're going to walk around here to the side just a little bit and take a look at the guys from the side, because I know you like to be over here looking at guys. You're telling me that Robbie, you were working on a little bit more separation, the separation between his stride and his hands. Talk about that a little bit as he swings the bat.
Well, here's a guy. He's got a really good swing. He's got a short, compact swing. He has a really good feel for the barrel. Obviously, he does that, throughout the season so we can see it. But, good hitters at times, you kind of tinker with your swing here and there, and that's not a bad thing all the time. You're always trying to get better. And Robbie's one of those guys who's always trying to get better. So if he can feel he can add something to his swing, maybe keep his hands back a little bit more, maybe kind of get through the ball a little bit more, he's that guy who's always looking for that added edge to get better. So you kind of like that as a hitting guy. It's not really a guy just trying to change his swing, but it's a guy who's always looking to do something to get himself a little bit better, and Robbie does that a lot.
There are little adjustments up here at this level, aren't there? There's not big swing changes so much as there are little things just help them a little bit more get into the hitting position that they want to be in.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's always something small. By the time they get here, they have a good idea what they're doing. They've swung the bat enough, and they've hit balls hard enough to get to this point. So usually it's a small adjustment, and sometimes it's more mental than it is physical. Sometimes you just want to get out here, get a good feel, and then get off the field so you don't do too much to get in your head and make it a little bit tougher than it is. It's already hard enough to hit a baseball. You don't want to add to the difficulty by adding 10 or 11 things to what you already do.
James, I appreciate you taking this time. I know you've been working all day with the guys underneath. You've been coming up with a game plan for the pitcher, watching video, showing these guys video. Now this is kind of your relaxed time, just watching the fruits of your labors a little bit. But we sure appreciate you talking to us.
Oh, no problem. I enjoyed it. Anytime.
All right, thank you, sir. We're good, boys.
Really interesting to hear the hitting coach talk about what he's doing during batting practice. And keep in mind, this guy's in charge of a whole team's worth of swings. And now as we watch Group 2 continue here with Joe Mauer, Robbie Grossman, Logan Forsythe, we talked in the pregame show earlier this year, Justin, about the fact that you spent as much time in your career hitting behind Joe Mauer as anybody. You were also in the same BP group as him for most of your time here. What's he working on on a day like this? How different is his routine from day to day?
Well, I mean, I think he keeps it really consistent. He's up there just trying to keep his hands inside the ball, and he's sitting there and he just wants to feel that barrel. He doesn't want to be out front of anything. He doesn't want to go outside of the strike zone. So it's basically he's relaxed, he's patient, and he's basically the hitter he is in the game, and he works on that every single day. He's consistent with it, and it's the same thing when the game comes. You never really see him get off balance, and you never see him chase too many pitches, and it's that same hitter you see in the game.
Group 2 picking them up. It's time to head on to Group 3. Group 2 was brought to you by Luther Auto.
Oh, that's not good. Got a dash light on? Not sure what it means? Well, it's lights out at Luther. All month long, drive into any Luther dealership. We'll run a free computerized diagnostic, turn the light out, tell you what it means, and give you a no-obligation estimate on how to keep that pesky light off. Find your nearest Luther dealer and schedule an appointment today at lutherauto.com. Now through the end of the month at your nearest Luther dealer. Got a light on? It's lights out at Luther. Ah, that's better.
Welcome back to Target Field as we continue with the Twins batting practice as they prepare for tonight's game with the Yankees. It's a lot more than just swings in the cage and preparing to hit. There is a choreographing that goes into every aspect. Players getting ready defensively, players running the bases. There's a method to the madness, and Roy Smalley explains.
During batting practice, the infield becomes a diamond of what looks like organized chaos. Along the first base line, a coach is hitting fungos to the second and third baseman. And along the third base line, another coach is doing the same to the shortstop and first baseman. The ground balls hit to the infielders allow them to work on their fielding fundamentals at closer to game speed. The ability to simultaneously field balls hit by players in the cage and work on your fundamentals by the coach takes practice, and everyone must be in complete sync. Between each ball hit in the cage, a coach is putting another one in play for infield drills. Players are constantly concentrating on multiple things, and if the rhythm is off, the risk of getting drilled by a baseball and getting seriously hurt is very high.
It's always fascinating to watch that. Now here during Group 3, the infield work is done. The infielders have taken their ground balls, they've done their throws, they've worked their feeds, all of that. But Justin, there's so much other stuff going on other than just the hitter in the cage taking swings.
Yeah, and a lot of teams will go through their lineup and they'll set their BP with, okay, the first 4 batters in the batting order are the first group, and then the next 4 are the second group. Well, I always like to hit in the second group because I could take my ground balls in the first group. So I would go out there and I would go through my ground ball routine, and I would always have Joe standing at second base, and I worked on throwing every day. I probably got to turn 4 or 5 double plays a year at first base. But I wanted, when it happened, I didn't want to be surprised by it, because any double play ground ball needs to be turned into a double play, and those were huge for me. So I got to work on those every day. And I also felt like when I took those ground balls during batting practice, it helped me loosen up. It got my legs under me. I got a good sweat going, and then I'd take my swings, and I was good and loose, and I felt good. So each guy would do it, and you kind of coordinate with the third baseman, because everyone likes to throw to second. The shortstop likes to throw to second. You turn double plays. You kind of go through that routine. And I like to do the same routine every day at first base, because I always felt like I could get better. So batting practice for me was as much about defense as it was about offense. And when I first came up, Corey Koski told me that to get better at third base, because the turf was so fast in the Metrodome, he would take live ground balls at shortstop. So he would back up, he'd give himself a little more time, and then he'd learn how to read the hops on the turf, because there's not a whole lot of turf fields as a kid growing up, especially the way the old turf was, basically like a cement parking lot with a layer of fake grass on it, and it was so fast, and you'd get different hops, and he had to learn how to do that. And he said the best thing you can do as an infielder is take live balls off the bat, because it was more realistic than a guy hitting a fungo, and you had to react to where that ball was going to be hit. And I tried to take a few of those every day. And earlier in my career, I took almost 2 groups full of ground balls. And then as I got more comfortable and I felt better at first base, I kind of reduced that workload. And then I'd take my ground balls in the first group, hit in the second group, and then go out and try and take some live ground balls. And the outfielders are throwing the bases at the same time. Everyone's working on something at some point, because, for me, that was as much fun as anything, is just trying to improve every day. I get better at something, pick something and get better at it, whether it was defense, whether it was, something in the strike zone, something to feel in batting practice. And there's always a purpose to it. And that helps you get through those days where you don't feel good, but if you can focus on finding a way to get better, it helps you just kind of eliminate, okay, my ankle sore, my knee sore, whatever it is, and it's going to be sore because you play 162 games in 190 days or whatever it is. There's not a whole lot of days off built in there, and you have to force yourself to get through. And then for me, the best way to do it was to focus on something to get better at, and it helps you eliminate all the other stuff that can get in your way.
Well, it's interesting because everybody's got different things to work on. You mentioned that everybody wants to throw to second. Everybody wants to receive throws at second. As a first baseman, was a part of it too. Did you ever work where you wanted to receive throws from across the diamond during BP, or was that something you'd work on at early work only?
No, I tried to catch throws, especially guys either get called up in September. You got new guys. I wanted to know, if a guy went to his right and he planted and he threw the ball, did it have a lot of tail on it? Did he throw a straight four-seamer across the diamond? Some guys don't have time to get a grip, and the ball would sail all over the place. And you kind of learn which guys will hit you in the chest most of the time and which guys are a little broader range and have a little less accuracy. And so you learn those things in batting practice. You know, well, the guy's taking his 25 ground balls at short and he throws 15 of them across. Well, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to stand there at first and practice catching those throws, and that way you're not surprised by anything when the game comes. And you know, there's different things that happen that, you know, it's always a chance to get better, and you turn in those double plays. So I'd love to see how quick my middle infielder could turn a double play. And then the other thing we would do occasionally, I started doing it once a series. We'd go in and I'd work on balls in the dirt. So picks, you know, imagine it's a short hop throw or whatever it is, and I would have Gardy or somebody would go out to second base and they take their fungo and they just try and hit one hoppers to you, and you just work on using your hands, trying to pick the ball out of the dirt, and then you learn what, you know, because the cut, basically the grass in front of first base isn't the same distance in every park, and the hop isn't going to be the same across the infield. If the third baseman throws the ball in the dirt, okay, is it going to hit the dirt or is it going to hit the grass? Because the ball comes off the grass differently than it does off the dirt. It skips a little more off the grass, and you get some different hops. So then I felt like I was prepared going into the game. I've seen the ball in the dirt. I've seen my infielders throw. I know what the background looks like. You know, if the shortstop gets a ball, and I'm standing in the shadows like it is now, and it's bright behind him, and you got that almost baseball-colored wall, okay, what does the ball look like coming out of his hand, and what's it going to look like in the game? So there's so many other things that you could do to prepare yourself mentally to be ready for the game and not be surprised by anything, and a lot of my confidence came from that, knowing that I did everything I could to be ready for that game.
So here we're in the final group of the day. Chris Jimenez, Tyler Austin, Jake Cave are the hitters for Minnesota. This is Tyler Austin taking swings right now. Maybe a guy with as much pure power as anybody the Twins have on the roster these days. And as you can see, he's working right now and hitting balls to the right center field gap. Group 3 brought to you by CenturyLink. When you watch Austin swing, what jumps out?
Well, I think the thing that I like about his swing is he has an idea of what he wants to do when he goes up to the plate. He wants to do damage. He knows he's got power. And right there in BP, he's not overswinging. He's not thinking he's got to hit the ball, every ball he hits in batting practice, 600 feet to left field. He's going, okay, where's my opposite field? How do I feel? How can I let the ball travel? How am I seeing it today? You know, he missed some time, so he's trying to get that feeling he had because he was swinging the bat really well before he missed that time. And so Tommy always said for him, each guy has something that gets them back to where they want to be. Tommy always said he had to find left center. You know, Jim told me, say, okay, if I had that good feeling I could drive the ball to left center field to the opposite gap, I knew my swing was where I wanted to be. My timing was good, and each guy was a little different. For me, it was trying to hit a backspin line drive right over the pitcher's mound, and I knew if I caught it right and that ball took off the way I wanted to, almost like a drive in golf where it sort of takes off like a plane and has that good true spin. I knew I hit a ball square as I could hit it, and my swing was where I wanted it to be. So each guy kind of has that different thing, and that's what I like about Tyler. It seems like he knows what his pitches are that he can do damage on, and he looks for those, and then he takes advantage of it.
You watch here, it's obvious Chris Jimenez is working going back up the middle. He had 2 in a row that hit the L screen in front of the VP pitcher. There's also that thud you hear where everybody's head goes up when you hear that thud go off the L screen and nobody knows where the ball is going to end up.
Yeah, I think the pitchers are thankful for those. It's one of those things where you're behind there and it kind of scares you sometimes, and it wakes you up. But we used to do that where we take rounds of BP where all we tried to do was hit the L screen, and it'll be a point if you hit the L screen. So there's different games you can play that I think sometimes we get a little too mechanical, and you start thinking, okay, when's my foot getting down? Where's my timing at? Where are my hands at? And when you want to eliminate that stuff, all you do is make up a game, whether it's the base hit game, whether it's how many balls can I hit to the opposite field, how many line drives can I hit onto the outfield grass without touching the dirt on the infield. I mean, if you eliminate all the thinking that goes on and you let your athletic ability take over, but if all you ever do in batting practice and every swing you take is mechanical, then you never get away from that, and that's what you're going to do in the game, and your brain can get in the way of trying to recognize pitches and trying to hit.
I always loved the philosophy that your brain's a powerful weapon. If you just say, I want to hit one off the Twins Community Fund sign, that it would self-correct everything else. And it would almost force your body to react the way it had to get a ball in that direction.
Yeah, and in BP it's a little bit easier to do that. I think off of 95 or 97 miles an hour, it's hard. If you're saying I'm going to hit a ball the opposite field off the State Farm and the guy throws you a 97 mile an hour fastball inside, it's going to be hard to do that. But, as you go along, your batting practice pitcher, especially if you face him a lot, knows where you like the ball, and he sees those spots, and he wants you to feel good going into the game, so he starts trying to throw to that spot, and you kind of feed off each other.
You can see the Twins hustling in. Group 3's picking them up. Batting practice for the Twins has come to an end. It's a little bit of a shorter version today because there were only 3 groups hitting and only 3 guys in a couple of the groups. Some of the Twins hitters did not hit today, but ordinarily, Twins pick them up. They're heading upstairs, and then the visiting team gets their opportunity to hit. We're going to be visiting here with Jake Cave. What did you see from Jake Cave in Group 3 as he's working on his swing?
Well, and he's talked about the swing adjustments he's made. I talked to him about it the other day, and it's interesting to see when you have something to work on and you believe in what you're doing, you feel like you have just so much more purpose going through those batting practice, going through those swings, and it'll be interesting to see what his approach for batting practice is, if he's trying to continue that or if he's just trying to recognize pitches and he trusts those adjustments he's made enough to feel comfortable to just swing in BP and just recognize the ball and take advantage of that kind of thing.
When you get to this point in the season, as we heard James Rowson say, it's a lot more just minor adjustments typically rather than a major swing overhaul. Can you make a major swing overhaul during the season, or is that something that's got to happen in the offseason as you get ready for the year?
The pitchers are too good to try and be able to do that during the year. You can make minor adjustments, but to change everything is difficult once the year is going.
We've got a special guest now. We'll hear from Jake Cave, who just got done with hitting in the 3rd group for the Twins. Jake, thanks for joining us today. Justin and I were just talking about some of the swing adjustments that you make over the course of the season. And I'll let Justin ask you the question because you guys had talked about making a major adjustment at some point this year.
Yeah, what was your reason in the first place to, trying to tap into or do something different and try and, was it for more power? Was it to hit for a better average, slugging percentage, whatever?
Yeah, I all through the minors when I was with the Yankees, I would get a lot of hits. I would hit for a pretty good average. But I felt like I got overlooked a little bit because I really didn't drive the baseball. And, being an outfielder that started to play all over the outfield, I wanted to drive the baseball a little more. I didn't get protected one year when I thought I was going to, so I kind of came into AAA last year with the Yankees, and I was like, hey, I'm going to try something different, see how it works. Start driving the ball in the air a little more. It worked. I had a really good season, and then I'm just trying to carry it over with the Twins a little bit.
Last year, your home run numbers were significantly different than they had been earlier in your career. You've been able to carry that over. Is this late in the season when you're in a batting practice situation like this, now are you just on fine-tuning, or is this just all about routine and rhythm at this point in the year?
It depends. Like, for instance, right now, the past few games, I felt a little bit out of sync, felt a little uncomfortable, but I had a good talk with J-Ro right there during BP, and I was feeling a little off, and basically what he said was like, hey, I can tell when you start striking out some, which, I strike out, I get it, but he's like, you try to get too selective and you try to get a little timid. And he's like, hey, screw it, man. Remember in Texas when, you were up there looking to drive the baseball and you had a really good series. Who cares if you had a few games where you were swinging and missing a good amount? He goes, those games come anytime where you get 3 or 4 hits, a couple extra base hits. So I went out there in the last round. I was like, all right, I'll try to just get a little swag and drive the ball out to center. And I took 3 really good swings and I got out of there. And, right now it's more of a mental thing, I think. But sometimes there's some mechanical things that go on.
Let's take a look at a couple of your swings from your recently completed batting practice. We'll let you be the hitting coach and break yourself down as you watch yourself swing. What are you looking for when your swing is on?
Well, I just want to look like, honestly, in that one right there, I got around the ball a little bit, but I just look at my motion. I had my little bat tilt that I do. It was slow and easy, and I wasn't getting out too far of my front side. And I feel like if I can do that on a consistent basis, then I can drive the ball pretty consistently.
So in batting practice, are you looking for a location? Are you predetermined, okay, do you go through those rounds of I'm going to go opposite field? All right, now this round I'm going to do skill round, get him over, get him in. Or are you just, okay, I'm going to try and hit it where he's pitched? Or do you try and have a plan every time you step in the cage? Or are there times where you just want to feel that swing and feel that barrel?
There are times where it's different. Like today, I felt like I was thinking a little bit more in BP than normally, just because the last few games I haven't felt too in sync. But then there are days where you feel really good and you've been feeling good at the plate regardless of your what the stats are saying. And you're like, man, I just want to get in there today and I want to take some swings to get loose for the ball game. And, today was one of those days where I was working on some stuff. I was talking to Jay about some stuff. But then there are days, like a week ago, I felt really good when I was in Texas, and my BPs were kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of going to go in here in the first round, just kind of put the barrel in the baseball and get ready for the game.
How much do you change your approach based on who's on the mound?
Obviously there are times where guys are, there's the elite guys that you really do have to change your approach sometimes. But for the most part, I kind of want to be the same. Some guys, there's good starting pitchers that throw upper 80s. There's good starting pitchers that throw upper 90s. So your timing's got to be a little different. But for the main, I want to look for a fastball that I can drive and hit it. Really, that's really. I try to keep it as simple as possible because I don't want to mess myself up. So yeah, I want to be on. Biggest thing for me is on time. I want to be on time, and usually when things aren't going great, I'm usually not on time. So I want to be on time and for a fastball and hit it hard.
So when things are going well, are you one of those guys that'll write down, okay, like the series in Texas, what your mindset was, what your thought was, so then when you go through that time where you struggle, you have something to go back to, okay, this is what I was thinking, this is my approach, or it was, I tried to keep it as simple as possible, my mind was free, and usually when you're going good, there's not a whole lot rattling around up there, but those times when you start going bad, I found the way to get out of it quicker was to have something to go back to that when you felt good, this is what I was doing, and this is my routine in the cage, and this is what my approach in BP. And are you one of those guys? Or are you just consistent? This is what I'm doing.
Well, there have been times where I've written stuff down, but this year since I've been up with the Twins, I haven't written anything down, but I've been a big self-talk type of guy. So I'll go into the cage, and before the game, you take a few swings to get loose before you run out here, and I'll step in the box and I'll tell J-Ro, I'll say out loud whatever it is I want to think about that day. And as of late, I've been stepping in the cage, and I've looked at J-Ro, and I said, get a pitch I can, slow, easy tempo, get a pitch I can drive, stay through the middle of the field, and then I take my hacks and get ready. And, there have been times in my career where that hasn't been the case. It's been, hey, I got to stay on that backside or something like that. But as of late, it's been the say out loud, slow, easy tempo, this guy can't beat me regardless of what he's got, stay through the middle of the field, put the barrel on it.
Jake, the ball club in general obviously has had a disappointing season out of the race. How do you approach games like this when you get a playoff contending team coming into the ballpark? Is it a little bit of a different edge when they're getting ready for a postseason? You guys take some pride in saying, hey, let's try to knock these guys off. Let's see how we match up against a team that's gearing up for the postseason. Yeah, of course, it's it's no secret whenever you're playing a team like the Yankees or something. There's a little more energy here. But really, the way I look at it, and I think, most of the guys on the team look at it, is, my job is to play baseball, and I'm getting a chance to put on a big league uniform every day and play the game. So, we could be first in the division, we could be last in the division. I got to go out there and I got to play because I want to keep my job, and that's just kind of where I'm at. And just because it's the end of the year, that doesn't change. And I think, I've watched, and I've tried to take some notes from the good players, the veterans, the guys that do play the game the right way, and I feel like that's something that they do. Jake, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Good luck tonight. Thank you. It's Jake Cave. He was a part of Group 3, which was brought to you by CenturyLink.
Oh, I switched to CenturyLink Internet. It's so awesome. There's no contract, and my price will never change. Oh, they'll change it. No, that's what I'm saying. Negotiation's over. Price won't change. Yeah, it will. No, it won't. Yeah, it will.
No, it won't. Introducing CenturyLink Price for Life Internet. Get fast speeds up to 100 megs and keep your rate as long as you keep your plan. Speed may not be available in your area. Switch today.
Welcome back to our special edition of Twins Live batting practice. The Twins' 3 groups are done hitting for the day as the Twins prepare for their battle with the Yankees here tonight. I'm Anthony LaPanta at Target Field. Batting practice is a part of how the players get themselves ready, but there's another part that goes on behind the scenes. Diet and exercise and training is a big part of it, and it's evolved in recent years. Dustin Morse, Senior Director of Communications for the Twins, explains.
All right, we're in the back area, Twins Clubhouse. This is the Twins Performance Kitchen. Now we're talking about performance nutrition, and I'm with Chef Mac and Jason Castro. First, I want to ask you, Chef, what is performance nutrition?
Performance nutrition isn't unlike common nutrition, but the difference is that we focus on the players' in-game goals as well as the demands of the sport. Most of it just has to do with good old-fashioned local produce, whole grains, quality protein, quality beverages, and lots of variety, lots of color.
So it's fair to say that nutrition has changed a lot over the years. Jason, you've been around a long time. Right now you're in the recovery mode, but maybe you can describe where nutrition once was a focus for baseball and where it is today.
So I think, early on in my career, it was more of an afterthought, and it was just, let's get guys some food, and that's kind of where it started and where it ended. There wasn't much thought given to what kinds of food, the timing of food prior to the game, post game, what you need to do for recovery, and that has greatly shifted to where we're at now. Most guys in the clubhouse are thinking about those things, whether it's pregame fueling, post game needs for nutrition and recovery.
I think Jason can attest, coming up through the minors, he was probably eating a lot of PB&Js. It's a common pre-game ritual for young athletes around the nation. It's a good, quick access to carbohydrate right before the game. The game runs often 3+ hours long. They need to be consuming carbohydrate during the game.
But this is your twist, right?
This is our twist. This is a whole grain wrap, natural fruit spread. So a lot of what we're doing here is offering ingredient upgrades on good old-fashioned, stick to your ribs type of meals.
Yeah, so it's different for everybody, and I think that's part of his challenge as kind of the chef for a diverse group of guys. You have different types of bodies. Not one type of meal plan is going to work for everybody in here. Then you also have guys from different parts of the world who are used to eating different sorts of things. So I think that's where variety comes in. You can have the best possible meal plan set up, but if guys aren't going to eat it, then it's not really going to matter.
One of the things that we came up with that we can't take off the menu anymore because it's such a favorite is our Power Grains blend. So it's a whole grain blend that essentially is a replacement for your average white rice. And it has Minnesota wild rice, because we are the Minnesota Twins, which is a great whole grain. And then it also has brown rice and quinoa. It's a great base for many different cuisines.
So we talked about nutrition, but an important part of the daily upkeep is hydration as well. You might play in 100-degree heat in Texas. You need to fuel your body the right way and stay hydrated. So we're at the performance cooler here, and maybe you guys can explain a little bit about the juices and the different waters that we have available to all the players at any time.
Well, first and foremost, hydration cannot be underestimated. It's a really important part of performance nutrition and impacts performance. We've arranged this cooler for pregame and postgame, labeling each of the products so that the athletes can come in here and get the information they need to consume the products that they need.
Typically, I'm a big coffee guy, so in the morning, I'm always having coffee regardless of, what time the game is. But night game, you're afforded a little bit more time to kind of set yourself up and fuel from like an earlier portion of the day to get ready for the game. So that way you're not coming in and trying to slam a big meal right before the game. So try to be smart about lunch for sure, and that kind of sets you up for the rest of the day.
Times have really changed. I remember the days when you come over to this station, it was filled with different candy options. Now we're looking at nuts, applesauce, and dried fruit, dried mango, something we go through about 150 pounds of dried fruit in one season. And it's not a bad snack alternative either.
It's amazing how much this part of baseball has changed over the years. I've seen it just wandering through clubhouses. You lived it, but you made a major change about midway through your career in the way you ate and fueled your body. How big of an effect did it have for you?
Well, it was huge. I mean, I went through a time where I was being injured, was injured a lot more than I obviously would have liked to have been. A lot of Twins fans would have liked to have seen, but I finally got to the point where I figured I had to make a change. I had to make it, an adjustment to something to help with my recovery, because I just wasn't recovering the way I should. And I went and had some food sensitivity testing done. I went and had, vitamin mineral testing done to see what I was deficient in, because, up to that point, I knew how important nutrition was, and I knew, what needed to be done. But at the same time, you didn't have all those options. So I actually hired Chef Mac first before he ended up working for the Twins, but it was the best decision I ever made. It was one of those things I wish I would have known. Obviously your older version of yourself would tell your younger version of yourself a lot of things, but once I started tying in, the food to recovery and as fuel and everything else, it became easier to consume a lot more vegetables and quality proteins and all these things. And when you think of it as, fuel in the gas tank, and you're not going to put farm gas in a Ferrari and that kind of thing, it makes it a lot of sense when you think of it that way. And it's unfortunate, I think, in baseball that it took as long as it did for them to focus on nutrition. I think if you're running a team out there with a $100 million payroll, to not have a nutrition or a team chef or someone who can provide your team with healthy food and healthy meals and stuff that helps them recover, I think that was a mistake that they made for a long time, but teams now recognize it, and it's come a long way, and I think the guys will be better off for it.
The meals these guys eat now in the clubhouses are significantly different than they once were, even going way back to the days when Roy Smalley was still playing. Let's go back over to Roy.
The food's a little different now than it was then, but it's fun to see what the players are able to do now in the clubhouse and their whole routine. I'm standing here with Trevor Hildenberger, the great relief pitcher for the Twins, late inning reliever. And Trevor, we've been doing a batting practice show here, and I don't want to talk to you about shagging balls in the outfield during batting practice.
Yeah.
I know that's not one of the pitcher's favorite duties.
And it's not usually the highlight of my day, especially since we do it 140, 150 times a year. But it's still fun to shoot the breeze with your teammates.
Okay, let's get off of batting practice then. Let's talk about what's important to you. You've been so good in the late innings the last 2 years for the Twins. You went through a little bit of a blip, and I was doing the games in Cleveland. It looked to me like Francisco Lindor went up and hit a home run, a couple home runs of you sitting on change. I mean, as a hitter, it looked to me like his whole body language was, he's not going to get me with the changeup. And it looked to me like as a result of that, or not long after, you readjusted. This is a game about adjustments, and you adjusted back. It looked like you started throwing fastballs again, get hitters off your changeup. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think it's a long season, and you go through stretches like that. I do throw a lot of off speed, and I think I've been around for a little bit now that especially interdivisional rivals are going to know that, and they're going to sit off speed in certain at-bats. Lindor's a smart hitter. He's been around a little while, and he got a hold of a couple off-speed pitches, unfortunately. But yeah, I did make an adjustment to try to throw my sinker a lot more, get ahead of guys a lot more, and not nibble so much, and try to get back to getting a lot of ground balls and let my defense work.
What was interesting about that adjustment that you made, it sure didn't take long to change the hitters' minds again. There was about 2 games when there were a lot of fastballs, and then all of a sudden everybody's way out in front of your changeup again. It doesn't take hitters long to get back on that fastball.
No, information spreads fast around here. I think if they've had success finding sitting off speed, and they're going to keep attacking with that plan, and I change the fastballs, then they're going to get on that pretty quick too. So we go to, like you said, it's a game of adjustments, and you got to keep making the adjustments.
I appreciate your adjusting your schedule a little bit today to take some time with us. Anthony, you and Justin got some more over there?
Absolutely. We're talking about getting ready for the games. We've asked the fans to participate using the hashtag TwinsBP via Twitter, and Boyd wants to know what your pregame routine was to get yourself ready to hit.
Yeah, I always hit off the tee, and now I've been coaching kids for a little bit, and my kids, and they always say, well, I'm not in T-ball anymore, I'm not going to hit off the tee. And if we didn't take batting practice on the field, if we didn't do anything, I hit off the tee every single day. I had a routine that I did that helped me get locked in on where it was. I would set the ball up on the tee the same way every time. I would have the little guy, who we always said it was Harmon, and I'd put him, because instead of trying to focus on the whole ball, I would focus on a spot. Because when that ball's coming in the game, it looks, sometimes like a golf ball, and you want to focus on a spot on the ball, and you're trying to hit that spot on the ball. I'd always start opposite field, so I'd set the ball a little deeper in my stance, because when you hit the ball the other way, it travels a little bit more. I'd hit the ball the other way, then I'd move, I'd hit the ball up the middle, and all I'm trying to do is hit backspin line drives, basically like launch angle and trying to elevate the ball like guys talk about. I tried to hit that ball at a certain angle, and I had that in my mind, and once I took a few, it felt good, I'd switch, and then I'd work on pull, and I'd set that ball up a little bit further. I wanted to feel that extension. I wanted to feel it and watch that ball come off the bat and know that if I hit that ball with backspin, if I hit it in the game and I missed it just a little bit, it still had a chance to be a homer. If I tried to hit it sky high and I miss it, it's a pop-up to the infield. So my thought was, all right, I want to feel that swing. I'm going to concentrate on that one spot on the ball. I'm going to do that, and then I always finished away. And Tony Oliva would always say to me, I'd set the tee as low as it could go on the outside corner, and I'd make sure I use my legs and I hit it, and Tony would go, why you want to hit that? I said, if I can hit that pitch, I can hit anything. So I would go in and I would do that, and then I'd feel good. That was how I get loose, and then I get in to BP on the field, opposite field, go through the round, situational, and then always want to try and drive some balls because you want to have that feeling of what it feels like to hit a homer situation late in the game. Okay, I've got that. I know what my swing feels like. I know what I can do with that. And you just kind of slowly move through that progression. And for me, consistency was so important in my preparation and my approach and the way I took batting practice and trying to eliminate as many things as I can, because if you go, okay, I popped out 3 times yesterday, so today I'm going to try and hit the ball on the ground. Okay, now I hit 3 ground balls to second, so I'm going to change this. And if you're changing your routine every single day, it's hard to be consistent in the game. So once I found out what that routine was, what I needed to do, hit off the tee, do some flips, maybe hit some breaking balls, whatever it was, it kind of changed from year to year on things I wanted to get better at. And then I would consistently, because they say it takes 30 days to break a habit, I would make sure I tried to stick with something to give it a chance to actually work. Instead of changing things every day, you end up putting yourself further behind. So that's kind of my approach to BP was consistency, so I could be consistent in the game.
Patricia is our next Twitter question. She wants to know if there was a ballpark in which you loved to take batting practice.
Ooh, Fenway was always fun. Yankee Stadium was, it was always short to right, so you felt like you could kind of get caught in that trap every once in a while of I'm trying to pull every single ball, but when there's nobody in the stands and you hear those balls hitting the seats, and it makes you feel good. The ball's rattling around, and you kind of go through that time, and it can be dangerous to try and pull homers in BP because you know what pitch is coming every single time, and you know what speed it's going to be. So you're basically hitting 58, 60 mile an hour fastballs in the same spot. So a good hitter is going to be able to hit most of those balls over the fence. So you try not to fall into that trap too much because you end up creating some bad habits. Sometimes your swing can get long. You can get away with a little extra length on the backside of your swing if the guy's throwing 60 miles an hour. Now you get in the game and you get a guy like Severino throwing 98 mile an hour fastballs, and that long swing doesn't work once you get into the game. So you try and make it as game-like as you can, but at the same time have fun with it. Create some kind of competition with the guys in your group, and then you come out of BP feeling loose and feeling good. And if it's bad, you say it's just BP. It doesn't matter anyway. So there you go.
Dan wants to know who your favorite teammate was to watch take batting practice.
Jason Kubel. Koob, he's one of those guys that we talked about that try not to pull every home run. Koob, from the second round of BP after the Oppo round, was trying to hit every ball over the fence, and we had the Koob counter. We said Koob hit more BP homers than Barry Bonds hitting during the year, and Koob's, he would tell him, order up some more balls, our group's going to need more balls. So Koob, I'd never seen anyone who liked to hit homers in BP more than Jason Kubel, and it was fun to be around him.
I remember was sitting out in the right field corner, and he'd be pelting balls out there. How about opponent? Was there an opponent that you always made a point to get out early to watch hit?
Well, I got to play with Tommy, but Josh Hamilton put on shows in BP like you've never seen. Balls to center field in the upper deck in the Metrodome. Over everything at Target Field. He was a guy that just had, if there was 8 power as the top of the scale, he had 9 power. It was just amazing. Stanton's a guy now that you watch that can hit balls out of sight. There's some guys that, I don't know what it is about power that we just love to see how the max human being can hit a baseball.
That's what they've always said, right? Hope you enjoyed our look inside Twins batting practice. Twins and the Yankees tonight here from Target Field. Join us for Twins Live at 6:30.